600 wins, 6 Georgia State championships, 16 regional championships, 2-time National Coach of the Year, first team from Georgia to win the City of Palms Classic, the nation's #1 high school tournament, first team in Georgia history to attend the Dick's Sporting Goods National Tournament of Championships. He's produced numerous NBA players and professional basketball players all over the world. It's real basketball talk. It's real help and real life with Coach Doug Lipscomb on the BG Podcast Network. Real Life Basketball is brought to you by the all-new 2018 K900 at Carriage Kia of Woodstock and Gainesville. Buy your new K900 from Carriage Kia and we'll fly you in or come pick you up for delivery. Visit carriagekia.com 24/7, 365 days a year. For America's best deal on the K900, call Chris Stanford directly at 1-866-333-2122. That's 1-866-333-2122.
Episode number 38. Appreciate everybody for joining us for the next 30 minutes or so. Got a star-studded rundown, outline format for all of you guys. You heard all of the accomplishments, all the accolades and whatnot, that being the coach, like we like to call him, the legend, the general, Coach Hines, who's coached any and everybody, if they somebody, especially around here in Georgia. Everybody, daddy, cousin, uncle, baby daddy, so on and so forth. I'm a little jealous because he ain't coached me. That's head coach. That's the coach, Doug Lipscomb. I'm DeShaun Tate. Appreciate you guys for joining us on today. We're going to get into some very familiar, some really, really good stuff, man. Real life basketball is what you're checking into right now, where we keep it 100. We keep it real at all times. Where I'm from, we like to call it keeping it 100. You know what I'm saying? Keeping it funky, if you will. We're going to talk about some NBA playoffs on today. Just kind of getting updated with a lot of game 1s, game 2s since the last time that we checked in. You know, some crazy things going on. The beef between, which one is the more interesting one, between Drake and Kendrick Perkins or Draymond Green and Charles Barkley. We're going to discuss some of that. An interesting factor where one of the NBA players' mom wins on a game show, wins a nice stack of money on a game show. And so we're going to get into all of that. But first things first, before we go any further, the coach, the general, Doug Lipscomb, man, appreciate you for having me on, man. How are you doing since the last time we spoke?
Great. I'm glad to be here. DeShaun, let me tell you something. If you'd have played for me and moved into the area, I just want you to realize that they would have came to your house, check your closet, make sure you had clothes in the closet, okay? All right.
I'm having a hard time really understanding what that means. Now, I'm a little bit of a ball player myself, Coach. You know what I'm saying? I do a little something. Now, I don't know if I'm Wheeler status and all this good stuff, but I do some decent stuff. I'm way out of shape. Now, I'm so skinny, everybody's like, hey, you're in shape. I'm like, no, what determines if you're really in shape is what's on the inside, not just how skinny you are. Believe that. And I would have loved to play for Coach Lip, man.
But no, what I'm saying, they were that thorough with the kids that came to my school. They would go to their houses and check to make sure that they actually lived in that house.
Oh, makes sense. Got to still be right within the district or something.
Yes,
I would imagine that's where you're coming from. Yes, that makes perfect. That makes perfect sense. I'm a little point guard, man. So I'm a little bit of a tweener between a point and a two guard. I'm just I got the IQ and everything. You're listening to Real Life Basketball. We keep it real, keeping it 100. Me, DeShaun Tate again, and the coach, Doug Lipscomb. One thing I forgot to mention, we're going to go ahead and shoot over to it right now. That would be the interview, the Who's Who in AAU weekly check-in with head coach, an AAU scout, an AAU just fanatic. He knows a little bit of everything about the AAU circuit between Under Armour, Adidas, Nike, EYBL, the whole entire nine. Here's that interview right here as we have it only on Real Life Basketball.
Come see the Carriage family and experience the Carriage difference.
Kia Kia is keeping it real with the all-new 2018 K900. Drive the car LeBron James drives and other NBA players call their preferred vehicle of choice. And right now, Carriage Kia of Woodstock and Gainesville has your new K900 ready for delivery. Go online, handle everything, then upon completion, we will fly you in to pick up your new K900 or deliver it directly to you. Call Chris Stanford directly at 1-866-333-2122. That's 1-866-333-2122. Ask for Chris Stanford. Carriage Kia, 24/7, 365 days a year at carriagekia.com.
Come see the Carriage family and experience the Carriage difference.
And we're back. Our first person that we're going to speak with is our weekly guest is going to be Coach Hines. How you doing, Coach Hines?
Doing good, man. Feeling good. How you guys doing?
Great.
Outstanding. Coach Hines, DeShaun Tate here. We know you to be our who's who in AAU. I think we might want to end up changing that to the name of the segment, Who's Who in AAU, with Coach Hines. First and foremost, check him out on Twitter, at Coach Hines 28. I noticed something. I know this is kind of tying in between college basketball and the high school level, AAU, of course. A reclassification took place on today, a 5-star forward initially of 2019, but reclassifying up to 2018 and joining the likes of R.J. Barrett, number 1 ranked, Zion Williamson, number 2, Cam Reddish, number 3, first time that's ever been done, Trey Jones, number 10 overall, Joey Baker, 6'7" forward from North Carolina. Talk to us about, his games he's played so far on the AAU circuit with Team Felton, which is really weird because Felton playing for North Carolina, and now a Duke guy going from his AAU program now. Talk to us a little bit about, what we can expect from him potentially in college and what kind of things stuck out to you in terms of Joey Baker, who's now a Blue Devil, enrolling as a Blue Devil, that you saw on the AAU circuit for Under Armour.
Yeah, Joey Baker, very skilled forward. That's a big boost for Duke. They get another skilled guy and a forward, actually, with all the guards and kind of wings they'll have coming in. Joey can probably be able to be another Kyle Singler for Coach K and Duke. But like I said, it gives him more depth because with Duke losing all 5 of their starters to the NBA. So it gives Duke more depth as well. They look very good on paper. We're definitely going to see how they look with Joey Baker now as well. Does have a starting lineup for their class 2018. Like you said, he did play with Team Felon on the Under Armour circuit just for a couple weeks and obviously reclassed to 2018 now. But Joey's a very skilled forward. He's actually played in Atlanta before, back in November at the Hoops Giving event down here with his Trinity Christian team. So I got to see him. I got to see him then as well. But he's a very skilled forward. I think Coach K will definitely get him right on skill development. Not sure if he's a one and done as of yet, but we'll definitely see next fall.
Okay, good, Coach. Wanted to say something like, I wanted to ask you about Felton's team. How has Felton's team been playing this summer?
Team Felton, I haven't heard many buzz about them, but I know they always had a good program. Like I said, I haven't actually seen them in person or heard anything bad or good about them, actually, but they're a pretty good program. I know they're a solid program. Had Jalik Felton a couple years ago, Raymond Felton's nephew, had a very good team then, I know that. But they have a great team now as well. I know they got some next-level prospects. So they're doing their thing on an Under Armour circuit, as of my knowledge, as of right now.
Okay.
Now, I know that we heard so much about, we've talked so much over the last few weeks with you. Appreciate you for coming on with us again. Just a little bit of a reset, talking to Coach Samad Hines, if you will, a guy that knows a little bit of everything, AAU insider, basketball, a scout even. Catch him on Twitter at Coach Hines 28. We talk about Adidas, Nike. Nike's going to be coming in between the 11th and the 13th of this month, so in the next week or so. a two-part question. Number one, with Under Armour, why, where do they stand in terms of competitiveness and just the way that their circuit is built in comparison to, Adidas and Nike and that type of deal? And then, secondly, just explaining to us a little bit about, what we can expect in the next, is there anything coming up this upcoming weekend before Nike EYBL gets to Atlanta, or what's Adidas got going on this weekend, or are they taking a break or what?
Yeah, so this weekend I believe it's a break for everyone. A lot of guys and shoe teams. There's not a lot of tournaments going on. I know in the South, not really anything big this weekend upcoming that I know of. But next weekend, Nike comes down to Atlanta. Can't wait, actually. It'll be very exciting. And competition-wise, that's the difference. I think Under Armour, they're not with Nike as of yet, but their competition level is rising, especially with the prospects they have on their circuit, with R.J. Hampton, 2020, Anthony Edwards, Jaden Springer, Jalen Suggs, the Team Rio duo of Scotty Lewis and Brian Antoine out of New Jersey. They just have a second, in my opinion, the top prospects as well. And like I said, these next two classes will be different because usually all the guys are at Nike, but we never know with the kids nowadays and their loyalty. Most kids will switch, but as of right now, it is very balanced with Adidas. With Adidas, UA, and Nike, everyone's all spread out right now, which is good. So it gives the shoe guys and college coaches a chance to look at different platforms as well. But yeah, I think Nike is still up there with the competition-wise. Just every game, even before Nike gets down here, just the buzz before it gets to Atlanta, you can feel the buzz coming, how everybody's ready for Nike to come down. You also get starstruck sometimes, seeing all type of superstars and celebrities maybe sometimes at the Nike event due to some NBA legends like Scottie Pippen. They have sons playing in the URBL. You'll also see Kenyon Martin there and a bunch of other kids there, celebrity stars, and it's just a great atmosphere there in the Nike circuit. So I think they're still up there as the number one with competition-wise as well. Every game is just competitive because everyone's trying to get a spot in the Peach Jam tournament, which is in Augusta in the middle of July, and that atmosphere is great. Peach Jam, man, is just a great environment as well. Might be the best of them all. I call it the junior NBA, man, because you'll see most of the guys go from there straight to the NBA most of the time with the one and done. So I think Nike is still up there with the competition-wise.
I'm glad that you said that because Peach Jam is one of those things that, I've been hearing about it for so many years saying I need to go. And my first year going was the year that Mocan Elite won. And I think they beat like PSA Cardinals with Mo Bamba and Cole Anthony, who's another big-time name that's going to be coming in within the next week. And I was just blown away. And that's when I kind of developed my little relationships with some of those guys. And I was like, wow, like this really is like a baby NBA. Trust me, this dude, Samal Hines, knows exactly what he's talking about. He's just not up here just talking a whole bunch of nonsense. Real quick, because I know I said that was going to be my last question, but I just wanted to throw one more out there if you could just answer it for me very quickly. A lot of these guys I've noticed, they go from this with this shoe team, and then they leave and go to that shoe team. I think Game Elite was under Nike or something at one point. Can't remember, maybe Under Armour, whatever. Now all of a sudden they're with Adidas within the last year or two, whatever. And just some of these guys jump back and forth to and from different AAU teams. How exactly does that work? And do you even know how any of that works? There's no consistency.
Yeah, I agree. Because I see all these different names just jumping in and out from teams. Even in the URBL, you have kids jumping from two different teams in the URBL. I've seen a few kids already, just different teams, even URBL teams, just switching URBL teams. So, and let us not be surprised if we see a bunch of new faces when the URBL comes to Atlanta. Because mind you, the Adidas or Under Armour circuit, they don't have no sessions. I know most teams don't have any tournaments that weekend, so we could see definitely see a bunch of new faces in Atlanta next weekend. So everybody should be prepared for that. But yeah, the Game Elite team, I know what you're talking about. They did used to be the Georgia Stars back in the day. There, Coach Williams, I believe he told me about that, but not necessarily in detail. But I'm not actually sure what actually happened with that. I heard a lot. Maybe it was a Norman Parker thing with the Georgia Stars owner and something like that, but I'm not actually sure on the actual full story. I have to get back to you on that. But, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So those kids did used to be on the Georgia Stars. Coach Williams just decided to take his kids with him. And actually, most of those kids are still on the team as of right now, which is great. There's a few kids that have been loyal over the past couple of years with the AAU. But, yeah, next weekend we should see maybe. I'm expecting to see a bunch of new faces from what I've seen in Dallas next weekend in Atlanta.
Glad that you mentioned all those things, and appreciate you for joining us, Coach Hines, man. Heard you talk a little bit about the excitement between Nike, UIBL, and how exciting it's going to be when they come to Atlanta in the next week or so. So I'm certainly excited about that. Hopefully it ain't going to be the same kind of excited I'm hearing about that I heard about with that guy from Kyrie Walker from the other night. That's for sure. And don't forget, man, I want to make sure we all forget. I don't know if Paparelli got to join us. Maybe the coach, whatever. We all got to link up. Don't forget, man. That's my word. I'll get you guys a free one, man. Round one on me. We got to get in a cold beverage, man, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I ain't going to say what kind of cold beverage. Let's just say that it rhymes with the word deer. I can't say what kind of cold beverage because my mama might be listening. She still think that you ain't never too old to get a butt whooping. Believe that. Coach Hines, man, appreciate you. Catch him on Twitter at Coach Hines28. Thank you very much for joining us, my brother.
No problem. Can't wait till
Coach.
next week, man. Next week.
Hey, Slick Nick here to talk about Constant Elevation Sports Consultants. They are profound in evaluating any level of any business and athletics. Their blueprint has proven to be successful and has developed many multimillionaires. As Coach Doug Lipscomb always says, they don't work to impress, they work for positive impact.
Appreciate Coach Hines for joining us again. Follow him at Coach Hines28 for checking in with us during our Who's Who in the AAU. An outstanding AAU coach and AAU insider. Now, Coach Hines, I'm really excited about this part of the show because I get really amped up, really excited. We're talking some NBA playoffs. Let's kick things off first things first with the game one and a pair of game twos from the other night. The Cleveland Cavaliers defeated the Toronto Raptors in Toronto at We Are North, 113-112 in an overtime game. They now lead the series 1-0. Let's start off with that one. That'll be our first of the three that we're going to discuss on the evening. What were your expectations on that one, Coach, going into the game? I'm a little curious about that one because we've seen some up and downs, some struggles. We talked about it in episode number 37. About, LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they came out and they took this one, they stole it. I don't know if there's still another one in Toronto. That's just a little insider, my prediction, my projection. But what were your expectations going into the game? How did that leave your expectations following at the end of the game, and did any of that change at all?
Well, I expected it to be a very good close game. However, I did not think that they were going to be able to pull that first one out. So if they win that second game, it's going to be problems for Toronto.
Now, I will say this much that and of course we're doing this, a day in ahead. So by the time you hear this, there will be a result already. But I'm not taking the Cleveland Cavaliers to go up 2-0 and going back to Cleveland. I think that Toronto will win this one. Although I do have that feel that Cleveland will win this series and come away in probably 6 or 7 games for sure. I just don't think. I always thought that Toronto was one of those teams that were just fool's gold, if you will. But anytime you got a guy like LeBron James on your team, I don't care who else is on the team. I think that he can take them as far as that they can, possibly get. He's one of the very few people that I think in this world that you can count out. When it comes down to guys like, and a lot of these guys are coaches, but Gino Auriemma and Coach K and Nick Saban and Bill Belichick and guys like that. I think that, you certainly add LeBron James to that mix because 8 straight consecutive NBA Finals appearances. Would you agree with that, Coach? I just feel like he's a guy that you really can't afford to count out. If he can take Larry Hughes and Zydrunas Ilgauskas to the finals, then I think that he could take this club.
Well, if he gets this round right here, whoever's that they meet up with next, it's going to be a very, very good team. So if he can survive this one, I think the next round he's not going to get out of that one.
I think the coach was trying to bait me the last time that he wanted me to take a certain team that I wasn't so sure I was willing to take in episode number 38. Now I'm trying to get the coach to take the bait and tell me if they meet up with his Boston Celtics, if I got him to pick the Cleveland Cavaliers or not. We'll get into that a little bit later. Game 2, the Golden State Warriors won their 2 games. Obviously, the second one, the most recent one, they beat the New Orleans Pelicans. The DeMarcus Cousins list. New Orleans Pelicans 121-116. They take a 2-0 lead in that series. Now, that being said, one of the more interesting factors of that, the first one being the return of Steph Curry. And I want to make sure that I mention this, Coach, because one of my concerns was that it would just be so ironic that you bring back Steph Curry and that be a game that they could potentially lose. And then everybody's going to be left stuck saying, well, had they not brought back Steph Curry too soon, then, maybe that was something that kind of messed up the chemistry or something like that. They didn't come remotely close to having that issue in 27 minutes, 28 points, 8 for 15 from the field, 5 for 10. That's 50% if you went to a public school from 3 and didn't miss a single free throw. Add 7 rebounds to that, 2 assists, 3 steals, although 6 turnovers. So still some rusty spots. Did you see a little bit of rust by any means by Steph? And I mean, he's a professional. Don't get me wrong. So how well he did is not a surprise. But what did you expect to see from Steph Curry entering this specific game in this series as well, Coach? And did it meet your expectations of what you thought it would be when he returned?
Oh yeah, because let's be honest, we know that he was practicing, so it ain't like he's gonna come back rusty. They didn't tell him he couldn't go in and shoot, and that's what he does. He scores the basketball, and he makes that team better, and they are a good team. Just think about this. Those guys have been together for a while. So when you start talking about chemistry and throwing things out of whack, it's not going to happen. I don't see it happening with them because they always play, think about it, 80-plus games. They can take nights off, and somebody else can step up to the plate and do just as well.
Now, one thing that I also wanted to mention about that specific series, and I wanted to ask you about this, Coach, and pick your brain on it since you've coached a body, not everybody, but a body. The New Orleans Pelicans, do you feel like they're more likely to get swept or to win one game, considering they're going back to New Orleans? Get swept by the defending and the reigning champs, or can maybe pull one game out? And what has to happen if you do choose that they're more likely to pull one game out? What does New Orleans have to do in order, besides probably have a lot of luck going for themselves? What do you feel like needs to happen for them in order to win one game, if that's your answer?
They would have to be phenomenal because Golden State doesn't allow you to make many mistakes. So if you're running up and down the court and you're not hitting, they will blast you, and you'll look up and you'll be down, just like the Pelicans have been in the last couple of games. And the thing that I see about Golden State is they let you know they're drilling you. Okay, it's not like we're just not gonna say anything to you. They let you know we are kicking your butt. Take note.
Now I want to make sure I say this before we go ahead and get to a reset. And get into some more funner stuff, if you will, because we like to have fun here on real life basketball. There was a little piece of something I wanted to mention, a little bullet point that I wanted to mention about the Cavs and the Toronto Raptors series that I think is going to play a huge part in Game 2. So we're just going to rewind to that a little bit. That's the best kind of a sound effect that I have for a rewind. Okay, so don't laugh too hard. The Raptors shot, I think, 4 for 21 or 4 for 24, something like that, in the fourth quarter. I think that was a really, really key piece. The way that, it looked like they were going to run away with this thing against LeBron and the Cavs. And one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to kind of put them in a position to where they're starting to build confidence. I mean, you know how it can be. I mean, you coach so many different teams and players, Coach, that, once you get to a point where, you're down and losing to a team, and that team either starts pumping their brakes a little bit too soon, or shots just happen to not go their way, as Valanciunas about how some of those balls were volleyballed up in the air and just happened to come down in the hands of Cavaliers defenders on rebounds and whatnot, where he couldn't buy a bucket. Or even in some cases where some teams were kind of playing, instead of playing to win, they were playing not to lose. And it just so happens that little things were not going their way down the stretch, and you just stuck right there within the game, and you ended up coming away with the game. I kind of feel like that's exactly what happened with a lot of the miscues that the Toronto Raptors were having at that time. And the Cleveland Cavaliers, you kind of got to tip your cap a little bit because they took advantage of that. And it's been a wave of mixed emotions for LeBron James this week, because it's like, you're watching him play up against who was that in the first round, the Indiana Pacers, and you're like, I don't know if this is about the Indiana Pacers being that much more improved. We proposed that question earlier in the week, or if this is about LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers really struggling. But we know they cannot continue to play this way, and going into a series against the number one seed, there's going to be some issues there. And then, all of a sudden they win this game. So you don't really know which LeBron and the Cavs that you're going to get. You're listening to real life basketball. And it ain't just with DeShaun Tate. I know I talk a lot, but it ain't just with DeShaun Tate. Let's talk about the man, the myth, the legend, the coach, Doug Lipscomb, right here for the next few minutes. It's a 30-minute long podcast. We always keeping it real. We always keeping it 100. That's 100, not 100, but 100. Moving forward. Okay, one of the things I noticed that was in the news earlier in this week is the dust-up between, and we were just talking about the Golden State Warriors against the New Orleans Pelicans. And there was a dust-up a little bit between Rajon Rondo and Draymond Green, where they kind of got into each other's faces a little bit. I know it seems like a really uneven fight, Coach. And Draymond's size and just how much taller he is than Rondo can probably eat a sandwich off of the top of Rajon Rondo's head. But, and they're kind of woofing a little bit. Now, one thing I noticed, and it stuck out to not only me and you, but it stuck out to the guys over at TNT, who I'm sure you're familiar with, a guy who doesn't bite his tongue at all, just like Draymond Green. One being Charles Barkley, who said basically in a roundabout way that he wishes that somebody would punch Draymond Green and that he wants to be the one to punch Draymond Green. Know whether the coach or not feels like that was over the line a little bit. Let's find that out. But Draymond Green responded in a post-game interview and saying that, hey, I get told a lot of crap, by a lot of different people, and especially these fake tough guys on TV, obviously directing at Charles Barkley. You see me all the time. If you feel that strongly about me, and I'm not mad at Draymond Green for this, but if you feel that strongly about me, then next time you see me, and if you don't like me, then punch me in the face. Later on, Charles Barkley went on and apologized. I don't know Charles Barkley, Coach, to be the apologizing type. But I get the good feeling that if he wants to continue to keep his bills paid on time, which I'm pretty sure I don't want to speak for him, but pretty sure that they're really expensive bills, then he might want to come out with an apology that probably came down from the folks over at, NBA TV or Turner or whatever. Do you think that Charles Barkley was out of line on this? Or does any of this surprise you? Who would win that fight, because some tells me Draymond Green can probably throw some hands. I mean, he's Sag Nasty. People don't know about Sag Nasty. That's Saginaw, Michigan, around the way, around my little, stomping grounds and stuff like that. But some tells me Charles Barkley got some of them old man hands, ain't nothing like that. Ain't nothing like that older man that can still put it on you. You don't want to go up and challenge Pops. You know what I'm saying? What's your thoughts on all this, Coach?
Well, as you say, let's rewind. Draymond Green and Rondo having a misunderstanding or whatever you want to call it, spat. But Rondo's not going to back down from anybody. That's how he plays the game, and that's how he's always played the game. So, I don't think anybody would let them physically get into the fight situation. But when Charles Barkley made his statement, they're having fun. And, it's like somebody may be sitting around and go, man, you need your butt kicked. I'll do it, Well, in that situation, I think it was for ratings. And it worked because everybody locked in, tuned in. And like you said, following that up, I'm sure somebody from whatever station they're on said, you might need to clear that up. because this is not Atlanta Housewives. So, having said that, they told him to go and apologize, and he gladly did so. So that's how you keep them bills paid.
I know that's right, man. That's a grown man decision right there. And I'm gonna tell you just something real quick, Coach. I know you mentioned it, and I don't want to touch on it too much, but it's just something I really cannot stand. I mean, I absolutely despise of this Housewives show, man. I just can't stand them girls doing all that yapping and all that drama and all that stuff. I just heard you mention it, man, and I ain't really with all that, man. I never did feel that type of stuff. Stay away from them Kardashians and all that. I heard Charles Barkley talk about he didn't mean it in the literal sense of that I want to punch Draymond Green. I think some of that was some truth to that, and I think some of it probably wasn't. And it definitely was. You mentioned one big key word there, Coach, and that was ratings. And I think a lot of that was about ratings. And a lot of that, I don't know, Charles Barkley to be saying too many things for the ratings. A lot of that stuff, I just get the feeling that he means, a lot of that stuff that he says, just because I saw him at the Final Four and we sitting there shooting the breeze, and he didn't, really kind of have jokingly smile, pretty much not even one time. But that's just the Charles Barkley demeanor. But what probably interests me a little bit more, besides the fact that when you said rewind, that you didn't want to hear my rewind sound effects, is the fact that Charles Barkley. I'm kind of curious as to if right now Draymond Green is in a position where you can't tell him nothing. He's making a lot of money. He's got a lot of jewelry. He's from the streets. He's winning championships. He's having fun. He's talking noise. He's backing it up. But Charles Barkley was that person at one point too. Now let's not forget. I'm kind of curious to know if his response to somebody saying that to or about him, if the shoe was on the other foot, how he would have responded at, 30 years old or late 20s, and in the same position as a Draymond Green. Because, Charles Barkley is still Sir Charles. I mean, who we know Charles Barkley to be now is a lot more mild, but we enjoy who he is and the ratings that come about with what he says based on who he was when we were watching him play. Let's move forward. One specific player, Coach, in the NBA, mother was on a game show. That being one, Patrick Beverly, formerly of the Houston Rockets. She was on The Price is Right. She won $41 million and I think a car or two, a vehicle, automobile or two. I want to have some fun with this a little bit. I just want to kind of put you up on it. You guys aren't really, you're not really expecting this, Coach, but I just kind of want to get your take on this a little bit, just to have some feel. Open up a little bit to the people that are listening so they can learn a little bit more about us than stats and facts and all that kind of stuff about basketball. Considering this is real life basketball where we keep it 100, always keeping it real, and this is where basketball lives. Which game show? We're talking about game shows here, and I have my own perspective on it. Which game show do you think that you personally would have excelled in or would have the best chance at winning? So whether it be a Family Feud or a Price is Right or whatever the case may be, is there one specific one that is personally your favorite? And when you're sitting down, you plopping on the couch and you just chilling, you watch things like, you know what, I think I would probably do pretty good at that. Is there a specific game show that you have in mind, and why?
Well, I would say the majority of people that I know would say Family Feud. You get the majority of those questions right, but maybe the time frame where you're on the television and the bright lights in your face, you kind of choke up a little bit, So I'm a Family Feud guy.
You know what? That's funny you said that. I'm a Family Feud guy too. I really like Family Feud. I mean, I'm that guy that's at home chilling, and they coming up with all these answers that are like, and I'm like, why didn't you say this, stupid? Like, this should have been it. And then they flip the thing over, and give the answer. And I'm like, what 100 idiots did they ask that question to that came up with something so, like, I'm that guy. I'm the guy that's like smartest in the room. And I think if I was on that specific television show, I would be able to name all of these different things. Now, I can't speak because it is a TV show and a game show that is based around not only you, but, people that you're, in most cases related to, in-laws or, wife, brother, sister, whomever, grandma, whatever. I can't guarantee that their answers would have been all that smart. That's not a shot to the Tate family, you know what I'm saying? Because we pretty cool and all that, but some of them, I'm already kind of, about some of the decisions that they make already, you know what I'm saying? So I ain't know how to feel about that. But a game show, I don't know. Like I said, Family Feud, I always was interested about the Stump the Schwab. I don't know if people have ever heard about that particular TV show before. It's kind of like a sports-based show, challenge your knowledge up against one of the most smartest sports guys in the world, and where it's really hard to do that. But I always, I always had a thing for, Coach, man. I always thought about how good I would be like on a Love Connection or something like that. I just always I know that's a little weird, man, but I always kind of thought how cool that would be, say go on a little date, talk about it after. I don't know, man. That just goes through the wicked minds of DeShaun Tate. The second part of that, Coach, is what is the biggest thing that you won? I mean, this is $41 million Patrick Beverley's mom we're talking about. What is it that the biggest thing that you've ever won by the luck of the draw? Whether that be, something in a raffle, concert tickets, something on the radio, game tickets, whatever the case may be. Have you ever won anything just by the luck of the draw like that? And if so, what was it, or what would you have liked for it to be if you never won anything by luck of the draw?
Well, I think I won some concert tickets one time. That was a long time ago. But that's about it. How about yourself, DeShaun?
Well, what concert was it? Fill me in, Coach, because I would take us through the mind of the coach. So let's get to know the coach, because we know Doug Lipscomb to be the Wheeler coach, and coached everybody, baby mom, daddies, and all that kind of stuff. But fill us in. What was that concert? Or even then, what was the first concert you ever attended? Take us through a little bit.
Ooh, man, you trying to age me. But anyway, it was a Parliament.
Okay, my bad.
It's good. It's all good. It was Parliament, and that was way before your time, trust me. But it was a lot of fun. Funkadelics. Yeah, that's probably the result of why I act the way I do now. So what have you won, DeShaun?
I would have loved to have been around during them times, man. Some of them people was having some of the best free fun of your life. Not free, but just free flowing, man. Just the energy, the lifestyle, everything was fun. I bet you at that concert they was smoking a whole lot of that stinky stuff too, Coach. As far as me though, I won tickets from a radio station back in maybe like 2012, I believe. And actually, this is a two-part answer. One of them is that I won some tickets from a radio station 2012. And when we get Nick Paparelli back around, follow him on Twitter at Nick Paparelli, Paparelli. I went to the SEC championship game in football, Alabama against Georgia. And it was a really close game. I think Alabama went on later on that year after they ended up beating Georgia in the conference championship. They ended up blowing the doors off of Notre Dame that year. And I think Georgia went on to play in the Outback Bowl in Tampa against Michigan State, where my boys put it on them. But ain't gonna brag too much. But I got some tickets to that game, and I really enjoyed that. Excellent seats. Never won anything, I don't think, in my life. And so that was a really awesome experience, a really good time. And to see Alabama, I mean, that was my first time ever seeing Alabama in person. As far as football, and I heard so much about them and just the atmosphere. And I mean, Georgia's a pretty big school in terms of their prestige and things like that as well. That was very interesting to see, not to know that a couple years later they were going to be playing for a national championship. But the other part of that is I won some tickets at a whole different radio station, and it was the first time. Everybody knows I'm from Michigan, love Michigan State. And the first time was Michigan played Michigan State in basketball. And I know my friends that are Wolverines that's going to go back and support and listen to this podcast, they're going to be getting mad at me because they're going to be like, Michigan State ain't beat Michigan in a minute. We just went to the, national championship. But I went to the game. It was the very first time that Michigan and Michigan State, it was just a few years ago, it was the very first time that Michigan and Michigan State had ever met as two top 10 ranked college basketball teams. The first time that they met ever when both of them were ranked in the top 10. And that was up in East Lansing, and Michigan State, I think, went up on them by like 40 points at one point or something like that. But it was definitely worth my travel because I wouldn't have wanted to go to that game and see my team get beaten. So that's just kind of where we're at on that. Last but not least, we get ready to wrap things up here on Real Life Basketball with the legend, the coach, Doug Lipscomb, and, of course, me, the sports debate slayer. That's what they call me. Well, that's just what I call me. DeShaun Tate, the Sixers, the Philadelphia 76ers, and your Boston Celtics. Coming up, what do you expect to see of this game? I mean, no Jaylen Brown for an entire game. Obviously, no Kyrie Irving, no Gordon Hayward. What has to happen in order? Give us the keys to the game for each of these teams. And I'm not sure if you know who Meek Mill is, Coach, but there's been a big deal about this rapper guy that got out of prison not too long ago, and he's a big deal in Philadelphia and sports and whatever else. They're bringing him to Beantown, to Boston, and I guess I don't know if that's their good luck charm or what, but what are your, I kind of personally feel like we might be overanalyzing that a little bit too much, making too much about a guy's release from prison and how big of a difference he is. He's not even putting the ball in the basket one time. But give us your thoughts on the three keys to victory for each of these teams, and who do you ultimately think is going to win game two? Because Terry Rozier has to have a pretty good game again.
Rozier is the key. Of course, you're going to have Al Horford. Hopefully he's stepping up and doing his thing like he's been doing it. And, we want the young guy to have a great game as well. I'm Boston all the way. So there it is. And as far as Meek Mills being there, I'm glad he's out in public. And, his whole situation was somewhat controversial. Hell, it always is. And I'm glad they're showing him some love. But he can come on to Boston and take that L with the rest of them. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I feel.
I know that's right. Coach. I think on this one, man, I think I'm going to end up going probably going Boston since they're at home. But I think it's going to be much tougher than it was the last time. I don't know. You know what? Let me take that back. I'm going to go Philly. I'm going to go Philly winning this one to even the series, going back to Philadelphia. And then I think by the time it goes back to Boston, they'll be tied up at 2 games apiece. So I'm going to take Philly in game 2. And then I'm going to take probably Philly in game 3 and then Boston in game 4. But I think it'll be 2-2 going back to Beantown. Just kind of want to make sure that we're wrapping up now. Appreciate everybody for listening. Of course, throwing out those Twitter handles. Give my boy Paparelli a follow, man. He's doing some really big things. He's on his grind, man. He's hustling and doing his school thing, and just want to make sure I throw that out there because he's a big supporter of the show. And he's our producer behind the glass and pressing all the buttons and doing all the really cool stuff and making it sound really good. So I want to make sure I throw that out there. Give him a follow at Nick Paparelli, NickPaparelli. It's a little weird that I know how to spell this guy's last name so good like that, but, I'm a spelling bee champ. So, follow me at Tate's Take Sports, TATESTAKE Sports. Look forward to some really good college basketball tweets and NBA tweets, AAU follow. Don't forget, follow my boy Coach Hines, man, Samad Hines as well, SAMAD Hines, at Coach Hines 28, that is. Appreciate him for coming through, talking about who's who in the AAU. And last but not least, the man that makes this whole thing any little bit of everything, that would be the coach, Doug Lipscomb. Go ahead and give him your Twitter handle so we can get up out of here.
Coach D. Lip. But let me add a little footnote too. Since you brought up Philly,
okay,
automatically like a button just went off in my head. Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley did all his actions and talking and backing up his things on the court. So it didn't matter who you were. And I'm sure if Draymond Green was on the court, it would be a different situation with those two. He never said, to my knowledge, that I'm gonna fight you away from the court or anything like that. So I think it was in the context of the game. The way he played the game is that somebody was about to do something to Dr. J, he would come over and counsel that. Same thing with Moses Malone, So Draymond Green, I never see him trying to chop it up with somebody of his own size. And it didn't matter to Charles because, look at he and Shaq. So those are not small dudes. But back to you, and let's close it out, Coach.
I appreciate that. Very notable information, and we can touch on this a little bit later on next week's podcast because I respectfully disagree with some of that. I don't think that this is a matter of little Rajon Rondo and Draymond Green just picking on little fellas. I've seen Draymond Green go up against some pretty big dudes too, and LeBron James ain't a small dude either, but I've seen him up against some pretty big and strong power forwards and centers as well. That's neither here nor there. We can get into some more of that next week, along with some other stuff where we will recap all the games from the weekend, game 2s, game 3s, game 4s, so on and so forth. So make sure that you're checking all of that. Looking forward to that on next week, along with, don't forget, that AAU EYBL, the Nike, that's going to be here in the metro local Atlanta area as well. I think that's going to be next weekend, if I'm not mistaken. At Coach D Lip on the Twitter, at Tates Take Sports. And don't forget, last but certainly not least, of course, at Nick Paparelli. Appreciate all you guys for keeping it real with us, keeping it 100 with us. And right here on Real Life Basketball, where that's all we do. And this is exactly where basketball lives.
Man, y'all know Charles will kick that dude butt, man.